Learning a language is the only way to save your brain. So yeah, you read that right. I'm basically going to address the benefits of language learning and why it's actually super useful, I think more useful than ever, particularly in regards to the effect it actually has on your cognitive abilities and your personality. I'm just going to talk about it. So don't worry if you don't understand what this video is about. I promise you it is useful if you are interested in learning a language or self-improvement in general. So here's why learning a language is actually super useful. So I know this for a fact. The modern world has basically destroyed your brain in a bunch of different ways. It's destroyed your brain's ability to learn things, it's destroyed your concentration, it's destroyed your desire to improve. That one's particularly bad. It's destroyed all your confidence, everything like that. They've all been hijacked, they've all been destroyed. And the kind of culprits, there's a few of them, but the main culprits are social media, short form content, junk food, dopamine, comfort, instant gratification, the school system, all of those things, culture, just literally all of them have gotten into your brain and they've destroyed all of the above things I talked about. We can't focus on things anymore, particularly younger people like me, like Gen Z and that kind of thing. We really can't focus anymore. It's not a joke when we say our attention span is destroyed, and that is actually really, really bad. I don't think it's like a silly thing to say that, oh yeah, everyone's got such a bad attention span these days, but I actually think that's terrible, because if you think about it, the reason you have an attention span is so that your brain can focus on one task, and that task is probably important so you don't die. That's how evolutionarily you have an attention span, because all of the human beings that have died before us without an attention span and that didn't have a good enough attention span were basically prey to some kind of animal, and they weren't able to actually pass on their genetics. So the only reason you're alive is because the human beings that could pass down their genetics until eventually your parents had you were able to survive because they had an attention span that was good enough to avoid the predators, the disease, all of the hard things that don't really exist anymore. And unfortunately, we're kind of reverting back to people having a really, really bad attention span, and it's going to be really, really bad. It's going to be even worse than it is now. Moving on, I think your ability to survive as a human being, and not only survive but also thrive, live a good life, have good financial success, have, freedom, all the things that you actually want, do depend on these things. They depend on your ability to concentrate. They depend on your desire to improve your learning skills, and I'll explain why. So you need to be able to concentrate as a person, because if you can't concentrate, you can't focus on particular things that are going to be useful for you. You can't learn things. You actually lose micro focus and macro focus. So micro focus is your ability to concentrate on something in the short term, like for example, doing a language learning task, and I am going to rope this back to language learning, don't worry. And macro focus is the ability to concentrate on something for a long period of time. Maybe it's a long goal, like learning a language, without actually goal switching and kind of moving on because you're not seeing instant rewards. And I think people are really, really bad at that. People are quitters more than ever before. And as in they give up on things that they actually want because it's too difficult even when it's not. I think the desire to improve is something that isn't talked about really, not even really at all, but I actually think it might be the worst one. I think genuinely people these days have no desire to actually improve as people. A lot of people are literally the same as they were a few years ago, and it actually makes me feel kind of sad for them, because I know that they're going to pay the price for it one day, and there's not really much I can do to help them, really. Like, I can take them to the water, as they say, but I can't make them drink. So I do think social media and short form content has people kind of living vicariously through their phones, through other people, and they're kind of content where they are, even though a lot of people are really unhappy. We're more unhappy than ever, but because we have these kind of comfort, dopamine, junk food things, it's kind of easy to not really do anything. There's no really active threats, and although life is kind of more kind of bleak than it really ever has been, obviously there's exceptions for like horrible times in human history, but if you look at like mental health statistics, that's what I'm talking about. People are kind of more unhappy than ever. But a lot of that is kind of passable because people just are unwilling to change. It's kind of comfortable with your Netflix and your junk food, etc., and your instant gratification and social media and all of those things. And the final thing I will say is your learning skills have kind of been really damaged as well. It's really difficult to learn things when you can't concentrate. You haven't really been taught how to learn things properly in school. School has done a really, really terrible job of teaching you how to actually self-improve and set yourself goals. It's kind of difficult to set yourself a task like language learning and actually complete it, because I think for the vast majority of people, myself included, unfortunately, most of your life has been some authority figure setting you tasks to do, whether it's a teacher or, a boss or a parent, anything like that. It's just someone telling you to do things. And so when you actually set yourself a really difficult long-term goal, it's new, and that's part of the reason why learning a language is so difficult. But enough about the damage that people have kind of done to them these days. Why is language learning an actual solution to this problem? So apart from the reason that you gain a great skill, which is the ability to speak a language, I'm not even going to talk about that. That's just common sense. If you learn a language, obviously you can speak to people who speak that language. That's pretty cool. You can travel. Throw that out the window. We're not going to talk about that in this video. The reason learning a language is so important and so cool and so useful these days is because it actually fixes a lot of the problems above. So when you do learn a language to proficiency, you hugely increase your concentration. And I can say this now as someone who's done it and is continuing to do it. Your brain's ability to focus actually increases. You become way sharper. You're able to focus on specific things and notice specific things. You're able to actually remember things, not just in languages and in the language you're learning, but actually completely random things. I'm actually better at remembering things that have nothing to do with the language I'm learning, simply because I've taught my brain that it actually needs to evolve and it actually needs to be malleable and learn new things, because I've taught my brain a language and my brain thinks that it needs to continue learning things for survival, which is really good. Your brain should have the ability to evolve and learn things. If it doesn't, that's seriously bad, and that's the state most people are in. I will say the desire to improve hugely gets reignited as well when you actually learn a language. Once you do something really difficult and enjoyable that it pays off, like a really big goal like language learning, your desire to improve hugely goes up. Because as we said before, most people just have no actual incentive. They don't actually want to get better. They don't want to look at themselves in a year and see that they're hugely different to the person they are now. They're just content with not changing. And that's really bad. It actually makes people really unhappy, I think, when time is moving forward, as it always does, and you're not actually moving forward. And so once you actually do something like this, it hugely ignites the fire for improvement, and you actually want to improve yourself in all areas of life. And then finally, it improves your learning skills. You're able to evolve, your confidence goes up, you realize you're the kind of person that can do things and that they say they are, even if they're really hard, and that kind of thing. So it is hugely, hugely beneficial to learn a language these days. I think it's almost more beneficial than ever, which is ironic because we have the most language translating software and we're the most integrated than ever before. But it is, I think, the most useful time to do something like learn a language, because if you don't teach yourself some really hard skill at some point in your life, you'll have basically gone your whole life only doing things people to tell you to do, and you've never actually given yourself a deep work, long-term, difficult task with a huge reward that you set yourself and forced yourself to do over time that nobody has really required you to do. And that is huge in all of the areas I just mentioned, and I don't really want anyone to miss out on that because it's hugely beneficial. So if you are a beginner or you want to learn a language, check out the link in the description to the Language Learning Accelerator. It's my course that I've built specifically for you, and you can also subscribe and jump in our Discord for free. I'd love to talk to you and help you a bit. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you did learn something. Have a good one.